They were the original superbugs: mumps, measles, polio and rubella. Thanks to modern immunisation, we don't see these diseases much anymore, so most of us have no first-hand knowledge of how dangerous they can be. Maybe that's why so many parents are questioning whether vaccination is the right choice for their children. And once they tap into the bottomless pit of misinformation swirling around the internet, fears are fuelled, minds are made up, and they may just say no to the needle. Well, tonight you'll meet some of the self-appointed experts behind the anti-vaccine campaigns and some grieving parents who couldn't disagree with them more. Perfect, big, handsome man. I think his mummy was a bit mad for him.
I think so.
This was baby Kayla Smith, just 5 weeks old. He'd just started to smile and his parents were besotted.
Loved his buttons.
They still can't comprehend, looking at this video, that he was dying before their eyes of whooping cough. So this is the most important bit. That's what parents should be looking for, parents of newborns. Is that what you're saying? Just that little cough?
Yeah, you wouldn't think anything of it.
Jay and Roslyn want people to know what happened to their son Kalis. He was too young to be fully immunised, leaving him vulnerable to the sort of disease which plagued our grandparents and is still among us.
He was given a death sentence.
Yeah.
Someone so young was given a death sentence.
But try telling that to the anti-vaccine lobbyists, and this is what happens.
I am walking out of this because this is a farce. But how about you put me in touch with those parents? I will ask them relevant questions to establish the whole medical history of these children, and then we shall see what they really died of.
At 76, Dr. Vera Scheibner is the voice of authority in the anti-vaccine movement in Australia and around the world.
It's ridiculous.
And so how many documents are in this room?
Well, it is more than 100,000 pages of medical papers.
For 26 years now, she's been writing prolifically about the dangers of vaccines.
It's a national treasure. Based on my extensive research of orthodox medical literature, I am totally against any vaccination.
Have you got anything good to say about vaccines?
No, because the immunity is achieved by going through the natural infectious diseases of childhood, such as measles, whooping cough, mumps, rubella.
So vaccines are dangerous and diseases are good?
Exactly.
Kalis was born in February this year, a little brother for 2-year-old Shayla. He only died 7 weeks ago and his parents are still reeling from how quickly whooping cough claimed his life and how little doctors could do about it. On Tuesday, he's sent home with a cold, and on Friday, he's on life support.
Yeah, shock. Every mother's worst nightmare, I think.
And they had 15, 20 doctors around him, just scream and resus, and it was all on.
I think people are thinking of this as a normal cold, like a bad cold. But it's not, it's a disease, you know. Look up the word disease in the dictionary, I think.
It's not so much the dictionary you need to consult, but the history books.
The recent paralysis epidemic in South Australia brought most of the affected children to the wards of the Adelaide Children's Hospital.
Vaccines have virtually wiped out polio, measles and mumps in Australia. They're so rare, today's doctors would struggle to diagnose them.
So if a little kid turns up with measles in the waiting room out there, it's a surprise.
That's right. And it's something that a lot of people just haven't seen.
And yet, half a century on, Professor Peter McIntyre from the Children's Hospital at Westmead still has to argue the benefits of parents giving their kids the jab.
We're not immunising to protect children against trivial diseases. We're immunising them to protect them against diseases which can have very serious impacts and If we stop immunising, they can very quickly come back.
What are the risks if a parent chooses not to vaccinate a child?
As a parent, deciding not to immunise your child from the child's point of view is you playing Russian roulette with their life.
So tell me about these boys. Who's who?
Connor's 12.
Sydney mum Meredith Collins has heard all those dire warnings about the importance of vaccinations, but she's not convinced. Her eldest son had an adverse reaction to his first needles, and she hasn't been back with the other two. Wouldn't you rather err on the side of safety, though?
I'm not willing to put my children or their health at risk with immunisations that I don't have any real evidence to say that they definitely work, when there are also inherent risks in immunisation.
While Meredith's not a member of any anti-vaccine networks, it's striking that their ideas have penetrated all the way through to her in suburban Australia.
I was concerned about the base of mercury and formaldehyde in immunisations.
You're worried about mercury in these injections, but mainstream medical research says there is no risk from that mercury. There's more mercury in a tuna sandwich.
Depending on who you're talking to. I mean, if it's a pharmaceutical company that's actually issuing the research, well then maybe, just maybe, they're releasing particular information to market that suits their purposes. I don't know.
So when you look at the mainstream medical research that says things like this, you're worried there is a conspiracy?
I'm not worried at all. I'm asking you the question, who funded that research? That's all I'm asking.
Initially, they just took kidneys of wild monkeys and minced them.
Working alongside Dr. Vera Scheibner is her friend Bronwyn Hancock. With a background in IT, Bronwyn's even set up a website to promote Dr. Scheibner's ideas, alongside her own lengthy exposés on the dangers of modern medicine. You write here that the body only catches a disease if it needs to. So all those polio and measles epidemics, Bronwyn, the kids, their bodies wanted to catch those diseases, did they?
There are benefits of diseases. Now, I say that with qualification because obviously diseases have to be well managed, and going through a disease is like us getting exercise. This is one of the reasons why it's good to get rubella as soon as possible so that you have immunity to it. And
but what about the risk of rubella to pregnant women who can have babies suffering terrible birth defects?
Don't answer things that you don't know enough about, okay? Just don't answer them. You were drowning, so let's call spade a spade. You see? Yeah. She was drowning, yeah.
Why would she be drowning?
Because she hasn't got the extent of knowledge that I have.
But if she hasn't got the extensive knowledge, why on earth is she writing these articles on the website?
Maybe you have a point there. Yes, that's right. Maybe you have a point there, okay?
So just for clarity, you're not a medical doctor?
I'm not a medical doctor, no. But I am a doctor of natural sciences.
Am I right in thinking that, in fact, your expertise is in studying microfossils, little fossils?
My expertise is in many areas. One of them was microscopic fossils.
But actually, just for the record, you have no formal medical training.
I wouldn't say that, because I did a course of nursing when I was young.
But do you believe you know more than most doctors?
Yes, I believe I know more than most doctors.
Vera's adamant that her qualifications were earned in this very room. During the quarter of a century, she's spent diligently analysing medical journals. For instance, in 1998, an explosive report from the British doctor Andrew Wakefield claimed there was a link between autism and the measles, mumps and rubella vaccine. And Vera, like many others, remains convinced.
Vaccination of any kind causes autism.
So only children who are vaccinated get autism?
That's right, yes.
That's a heck of a story.
It is a heck of a story, yes.
And that's just what it was, a story. Fiction, not fact. Last year, Dr. Wakefield was struck off the medical register for falsifying his research. Not that Vera has got the message.
it was fraud. And yet, despite that flimsy evidence, once something gets out and there are people looking for answers, particularly with something nasty like autism, it'll just keep going.
Should the medical community be more candid about the risks of vaccines, both now and in the past, in order to overcome some of the community anxiety about giving kids the jab?
Absolutely. And believe me, if we were concerned about something not working, or particularly something that was actually causing harm, we'd be the first to put up our hands and say, well, let's stop it.
Such concerns about vaccines can unsettle a whole community. Here in parts of northern New South Wales, as many as 1 in 3 children is not immunised. And as the immunisation rates went down, the rates of disease here went up, particularly dangerous for any baby under 6 months old, as they are too young to be fully vaccinated.
This is Dana.
And so it was here in 2009 that little Dana McCaffrey was born, into the middle of a whooping cough epidemic.
Like a mum, grandmother and a cousin.
By the time the doctors worked out she was infected, it was too late.
And I have to live every day knowing that because I took Dana out as a newborn, someone breathed on her and she's dead.
Now David and Tony McCaffrey are taking no chances with their 4th child, Sarah. She won't leave the house until she's fully immunised. David's even off work as a teacher because 1 in 5 children at his school has tested positive for whooping cough. Are you comfortable with me being this close to Sarah without a mask?
I am, because you've had the booster.
The whooping cough.
The whooping cough booster. Whereas Richard hasn't had the booster yet.
Our cameraman.
Yeah.
We lost a child to whooping cough, and we don't want to lose her.
Everyone's focusing on the deaths. What about the children that survive? It is a horrible disease. What it does, it breaks ribs, brain damage, scars their lungs. Their lungs can collapse, perforated lungs. Pneumonia every year, they have a cold for the rest of their life. Chronic asthma. This is what whooping cough does.
And how do you know they died from whooping cough?
These children went to hospital and the doctors there diagnosed them with whooping cough. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
But if the child was given hepatitis B at birth, it certainly suppressed its immune system and made it very susceptible to catching whooping cough from people around.
They're dead because their parents immunised them at birth against hepatitis B.
That's right, absolutely. Because vaccines are any vaccines are the single biggest cause of infant death. Those mothers have no knowledge to judge the case. They only listen to what doctors tell them. And of course, the doctors are only too happy to start blaming the disease instead of their vaccines.
Can I put it to you both that maybe not from malicious intent, that the two of you are involved in a conspiracy to cover up the plain fact that infants die an agonising death from whooping cough?
Absolutely not. And I am walking out of this because this is a farce. But how about you put me in touch with those parents? I will ask them relevant questions to establish the whole medical history of these children, and then we shall see what they really died of. And I don't accept any accusations from you or anybody else about me doing something wrong, because I'm not doing anything wrong.
People have said to you, we want proof that this is how your daughter died.
I watched my daughter over 5 days die the most agonising death, and I don't want any other parent to go through that.
And what do you say to them about proof?
My proof's in a cemetery.
For the Smiths, their grief is still raw. They have learned the hardest way what our grandparents and great-grandparents knew, that childhood diseases can kill, and there's still no cure, only prevention.
To see a child laying there from being perfectly healthy, just a little bit of a cold, to on full life support, knowing that he probably won't live, you won't get to touch him, you won't get to hear his cry, don't just smell him. To hear your baby cry, you don't, it's a beautiful thing. I just wish I could hear him cry again.
Hello, I'm Dimity Clancey. Thanks for watching 60 Minutes Australia. Subscribe to our channel now for brand new stories and exclusive clips every week. And don't miss out on our extra minute segments and full episodes of 60 Minutes on 9now.com.au and the 9Now app.